Hello. I'm Don and today we are looking at the hot posts from us/NuclearRevenge. In today's first story, a pedophile gets a short sentence, but he doesn't leave the prison alive. This story has sat with me for a few years now, and I feel like I'm ready to share it. My father sexually abused me and my siblings growing up. I was the youngest of 3 siblings and was the one that spoke out, eventually getting him arrested. He only got charged with 1 count against my sister. Me and my brother have spoken about what happened a few times and both feel we never got justice for what he did. He got 4 years in federal prison as well as charges for having drugs and some illegal weapons, an assault rifle and pistol that weren't registered. In Canada, for a time in my teenage years I ended up living in a bad neighborhood, living with my gang member friends and selling drugs to pay for myself to eat. Don't judge me for that, I only sold weed, which can't kill anyone, so I feel fine about it. One day a higher up in the gang my friends were in came by our apartment because I was selling a lot of weed and he was beginning to not like it. He gave me a bouldery and I respected him since he respected me being just a kid trying to finish high school. The higher up, let's call him Greg, fake name, would come by once a week to check in, but not in a bad way. Greg actually helped me out, so a month after meeting him I didn't need to sell anymore. He helped with bills and groceries. When I asked him why, he told me he knew my dad in jail. The following story is what I remember from what he told me. The prison confirmed this story when I asked after I turned 18. Greg had been in prison for 3 years when my dad arrived at the prison. Greg and my dad turned out to be cellmates. Greg explained to me that my dad never seemed right, and over a year he managed to gain his trust. My dad revealed to him that he was caught for assaulting multiple people in his charge, but didn't actually tell him what he did. Greg, being in a semi-powerful gang, used his connections to find out exactly what my dad did. Greg didn't want to ruin getting out, so all he did was tell the more respected prisoners, of which will never see freedom again, and do not have morals. My father was raped, beaten, burned, stabbed and beaten again for months before he died. And all I can say is I wish it lasted longer. Greg put the pieces together and looked out for me for 2 years when I had no one. Greg got the justice that me and my siblings really deserved. Maybe not nuclear, but when I think about the months of torture he endured, I feel those prisoners got better revenge than I could ever have gotten. I am great now. Greg is kind of like an old crazy uncle. Now he got shot in the arm and gave up the gang life. I think I got everything, but if anyone has questions, go ahead and ask. At it. My dad's sentence was only 4 years because he pled guilty. My story is vague because there's a lot of people that could be hurt with the details of this story. I know I was in the gang, I was just friends with a lot of gang members, it was a shitty neighborhood. Warning. The second story is mention of sexual assault and murder. I'm not sure this will fit as nuclear revenge, as I didn't carry out the revenge itself. I decided not to post this on my main account to keep anonymity. I lived with a friend in an apartment within a semi-small town. It wasn't a small town, but everyone had to know everybody's business. I thought she was a good friend, but I was wrong. One night my friend, her boyfriend, my boyfriend, and myself all went out to our local club. We had a fun night hanging out. When my boyfriend and I decided to leave, my friend and her wanted to stay out longer. After my boyfriend dropped me home, he wasn't drinking. I went into my room, closed the door and went to sleep. I was promptly woken up by someone's number all assaulting me. It was too dark to see who it was. I yelled at the man, "What are you doing?" He tried to hide. I promptly got up and turned on the light, then screamed at him to get out, and he ran out. I tried knocking on my neighbor's door, they had been drinking and not coherent. Rang and police. I moved out of the apartment within days as I didn't feel safe. I told my friend what happened and why I had to move out suddenly. My boyfriend helped me every step of the way. Without him, I would have been a mess. What I didn't expect was the lack of support from my friend, and she whinged about me moving out to people we knew. People in town had heard about my assault, and I was told my friend had let this man into our apartment. Didn't advise me about it, and went to her boyfriend's place. Not only did I feel violated and unsafe, I felt betrayed. Before the court case was to occur, the policeman in charge of the case told me that the man killed himself. He had left a note to a girl with the same last name as mine, which I thought was bizarre and weirdly coincidental. During this time my friend left town. People I knew had been furious about what she had done and run her out of town. The nuclear part. A friend confided in me that the guy who assaulted me was murdered. They made it look like a suicide. He told me the local Bucky gang had heard about my assault. They had been angry as allegedly he had previously assaulted a minor girl who'd been a sister to one of the gang members. He wasn't charged with assaulting the minor girl. Sadly, I kept asking this friend to clarify if it was the truth because I couldn't believe it was true. He told me continuously this was the truth. To this day, it still shocks me. This occurred many years ago, and I've been through therapy for it all. I have forgiven my friend. Not for her, but for me. In tonight's third story, a man gets crushed by his car after he doesn't pay his repair bill. Not my story, but my father's. Took place in the early 2000s. He's a master mechanic who can literally work on any car for rain or domestic. He's teaching me right now, and it's an honor to learn from him. He's always run his own independent repair shop almost as long as I can remember. And he told me this story recently that just seems perfect for this summer. So this guy comes in with a pretty nice Chrysler convertible to get his transmission fixed. He had to remove the transmission, disassemble, and rebuild it. Pretty long process, but it's no problem. After a day's work, he calls the customer up, says his car is ready, and reminds him of the agreed upon price of about $1,200. The guy said he could only pay $600 then, and he'd have to get back to him on the rest. Now, this isn't out of the ordinary. Where we live, most people aren't exactly wealthy. And my dad's a nice guy. He single-handedly supported 4 kids and a wife. So we weren't exactly rich. It's not uncommon for people to pay in installments. He doesn't charge interest or fees or anything. Just tries to do what's right. The guy pays half his bill, and with the promise of paying the remaining amount in a few weeks, he leaves with his car. About 2 months pass, however, and the guy hasn't paid. Haven't even contacted my dad about any issues or to say something like he lost his job or something. So my dad calls him up and asks when he thinks he'll be able to pay the rest of his bill. And I kid you not. This is how the convo went. Dad, hey, this is placeholder name. I was wondering when you'll be able to pay the rest of your bill. Guy, oh, yeah, about that. I'm not paying it. Dad, surprised? What? Is something wrong with the car? If something went wrong, I'll take care of it. Guy, no. The car runs great. I'm just not gonna pay you. Dad, WHAT. WHY. Guy, well, I have the car now, so I don't see any reason to pay you. They went back and forth a bit before my dad realized it was pointless and decided to enact some sweet revenge. He calls up a local towing company and gives them the guy's address, license plate, and care description and tells them to tow the vehicle to the county recycling center. He then calls up the recycling center and say, hey, you're gonna be getting a Chrysler convertible license plate XXXXX from towing. When it gets there, I want you guys to crush and recycle it. And so, they do. Car was crushed and recycled. The next day, the guy shows up to my dad's business FURIUS and with the state patrol. My dad explains the entire story. And the cops tell the guy that technically, the vehicle was moved, not stolen. The recycling center received recyclable goods, and not stolen property. And now the car no longer exists, as it's been recycled, and thus was not a criminal manner, but a civil one. So the guy sues my dad, and once again, my dad explains the entire story. And AMACINGOY. The judge says the same thing as the troopers and DISMISSED. It sounds almost unbelievable, because it just seems so illegal. But if a judge rules in his favor, it's gotta have some merit by a technicality or something. Granted, this was maybe 15 years ago, so the laws could have changed since. But goddamn, the guy gets his car crushed simply because he chose not to pay the remaining repair bill and wanted to take advantage of someone's kindness. And in the comments, people go into why his dad was allowed to do this. Yes. Your dad has full right to do so. It's called a mechanic's line. Anytime a car is left with unpaid work at a mechanic, the mechanic can sell the car to recoup losses. This is here in the US. The guy had a written contract. That's why it worked in your dad's favor. Mechanic's line still has to get filed, and the process needs to go to court before recovering the vehicle and having it sold to recoup damages. Even if that process had gone through, it still does not allow for the car to be stolen and destroyed. This story is fake as hell.